Okay, hang
All
on.
right.
Let me
Hello.
record. Hang on, I'm sorry. I wasn't recording yet.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Creative Nectar podcast. I am your co host, Stephanie Gray.
And I'm Jenny Hahn. Hi, everyone.
Hello, and welcome in. it's going to be an interesting show. We are going to talk about creativity. Is it a form of channeling? And what does that mean when we even say that? Receiving guidance through creativity. Is this a form of channeling? So these are some things we're going to talk about. What is that spark and that flow that Jenny and I are always talking about here? And sort of like drilling into that. What does that actually mean for us? And then for you all, it'll have us thinking for sure. And then what do we mean when we say channeling? Like, what does that actually mean? And where does creativity come from? Like, these are some big questions.
Yeah.
And we thought we would just dive right on in and start talking about them. Um, I think specifically because we have been creating for so long, Jenny, that we've had certain things happen with us through us as we're creating, and it became something to talk about. I think that's definitely warranted. So that's what we're going to do today.
Yeah, I'm so excited by this topic because I mean, we've already been chatting a little bit before meeting here. And I mean, it's like this is one of those topics where you can just talk for hours.
Well, and what's so yeah, what's so interesting is before we even said what our next podcast was going to be, one of our community members was on our Facebook group in our Facebook group had mentioned what are you referring to when you were talking about that flow, that spark? And
Right.
yeah.
And does it come from within or is it coming from outside of us or both? Yeah, these are such interesting questions of where does it come from? Because obviously we have these strong sense experiences and knowings and receivings, but where is it coming from? And is it receiving? Is it generating? Is it receiving? From where? And how do we know what we know?
Right.
Just simple questions
Simple
like
things.
that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm going to have a blast for sure. But I wonder if we could start from the beginning, which is, Jenny, I know you like to look up definitions of things. Did you look up channeling?
I did, yes. And I mean, my understanding is there's different there's different types that have different meanings here. But what I found in terms of channeling was the practice of professedly entering a meditative or trance-like state in order to convey messages from a spiritual guide. That's more of the kind of the popular definition or form of channeling that we usually think of is almost more of a psychic experience of receiving messages from a deceased loved one, from angels, from spirit guides, from aliens, from something beyond, from God. So and it can get more intense in terms of like a trance state. Somebody would uh, let this whatever other being kind of take over one's body, consciousness, all of that. So we see examples of this in movies and stuff. I'm thinking of like the movie Ghost. But yeah, it's that's like what I found with this. But my definition of channeling is a little different because I don't necessarily think of it as an outside entity. I mean, it could be, but when I am in the creative flow and I think of myself as a channel receiving, when I clear out my own ego agenda, fears, blocks, all of that, and I talk about this in my book, Creative Flow, is that it's like feeling like I am a vessel for that which is wanting to express. And that allowing of it is can be a very connected and fulfilling experience. That when we hear about the flow state, um, uh, the psychologist, I'm probably not going to say his name right, but Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, the Hungarian psychologist who first coined that term flow, it was talking about when we are in that really engaged state where we are fully present and it's like life is happening very naturally and very effortlessly. And so to me, my definition of channeling might be different from like the pop culture definition, but I want to hear your take on this, Steph. And yeah, to me, being in that flow is when we are fully present, fully connected, and fully allowing.
Yeah. I mean, that's beautifully put. Absolutely. And, my definition is about the same. I would say there's definitely that I would say that something happens when I am in that state, and it doesn't happen immediately after I've picked up a paintbrush or a paint pen. It takes a little bit of time for me to drop into that more of that deep space or the heart space that we talk about. And
Right.
and it certainly didn't happen immediately when I started process art. It took a while. And things began to reveal themselves, but in very like fits and starts and very small doses. So to the point where I really didn't even realize it till I looked back. But now I feel channeling for me is being in that heart space, being a co-creator of something else, but that is also part of me, like something, I want to say something greater than me, but at the same time it is me, if that makes any sense. um
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, and then we can dig deeper if you'd like, but it's yeah.
Well, and I love that. I mean, let's talk about some of those. I mean, when you say greater than you, but also you, and it's like, yeah, is it within? Is it without? Is it both? I mean, that's where I get really just like, it's such a juicy topic. Like, I want to delve into that because over time, over history, that explanation of what creativity is and what is happening when we're creating, the language has shifted, but it's always this kind of, it's always a little beyond our reach, our grasp of what's actually happening. Because science can tell us that when we're in that creative or flow state, that different things are happening in our brain, which is true. But is it originating from our brain? Is the brain the generator of the experience, or is it a receiver? Is the brain chemicals and different things firing, is that a result of something else? And this is yet to be determined. I love that, when we go back to the times of ancient Greece, art and literature and all the great creations were attributed to the muses, which were considered to be actual goddesses who spoke, who whispered into the ears of someone writing or painting or whatever they were doing. And so I love hearing different creators' explanations of that. Like I'm thinking of um, the poet laureate of Unity. His name was James Dillett Freeman. Used to say that angels sang in him. He described his
Wow.
poetry as angels singing in me.
Oh,
So so, let's, I know, right? But, some people talk about getting downloads, like cosmic downloads of information or wisdom, whether it's taking a creative form or not, just with ideas. Um, I earlier we were talking and I mentioned Elizabeth Gilbert, her book Big Magic, which we've talked about on here before, but she talks about that ideas, her idea of ideas is that ideas are disembodied energetic life forms that are seeking out human hosts because while they are conscious and they have will and they wish to be manifest, they don't have bodies. They need the human interaction of co-creation. I mean, that's like, wow. I love it. I, I mean, yes, and right? I mean,
Yeah.
who's to say what I was talking to my beloved partner last night as we were preparing for this. My partner Jerry, we were talking, and I asked him. He's a writer. I was asking him, how does he receive ideas? What is creativity? What's really going on with him? And we got into this conversation, and he was really pondering it. And he said, I want to make sure I get this right. What he was saying. He said he doesn't feel so much like he's receiving as he's immersing himself in a pool, in a creative pool, and then translating what he's seeing, almost like a reporter.
Oh my God.
And so I was asking more questions, and I said, "Yeah, but where's that coming from? Like, so you're seeing. So where are you seeing it from?" And he said, "Well, it comes from the future. I'm just reporting something that hasn't that is going to happen." So it's like plucking these ideas out from the future and just reporting what you're seeing. I mean, I don't know. It's just fascinating. So that kind of gets into the question of like, what is past and future? If everything is in the now, are we just receiving something that we are to become, that is to become, that is to be, that already is in another dimension or another time or another us? I feel
Yeah.
like this is getting really trippy.
In a in a place without form, wanting form. It's like I am formless at the moment, but would love form. And I don't know if this is the case or not, but that's what it feels like sometimes. Like it's already like wanting to be birthed. And if if I say no to it, it doesn't mean that it's not going to find another vessel to come through.
Right, right. And we see that a lot in
Absolutely.
history.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Eh,
With movements. And you were saying earlier about the idea of like with cave paintings, how,
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it's funny because they always say scientists are stumped, but around the same time period, they found similar things on, the walls of caves throughout the world, continents away from one another. It's like, well, I'm sure I'm guessing scientists can't totally figure that out, but there is, I mean, what if, right? I don't know for
what
sure, but
if?
what if it is that source energy that is in all of us, that spark that we talk about, and it's wanting to create something in each specific moment, and at each specific moment, like maybe six people around the world, decided to just like mark it down on a cave wall.
Right, right.
Who knows?
And yeah, and like you said, if we say no to that which is wanting to express in us, that it's funny how we will often see it from someone else. And that's something else Liz Gilbert talks about is, she gives a very clear example of that story of how she said no to a book that was wanting to happen and somebody else wrote her book.
Absolutely.
But it's like, is it really her book? This is where I find it so interesting that yes, we're receiving these creatives, we have this creative spark and we're receiving and we're allowing, but also we, the vessel of you, whoever you are, is unique,
Yes.
has experiences and memories and emotions and your history, your story, everything. I feel like that is what, and this is something else I talk about in creative flow, but it's like we are seasoning that flow with our
Mhm.
own spices and flavors, and that's where the uniqueness comes in. That's where nobody can create what you can create. You can receive the
Right.
same inspiration, the same ideas, the same impulses, whether you're receiving it through your mind or up through the body, but it's always going to be flavored differently by you
Yeah.
because of your uniqueness.
It's it's co-manifesting, right? It's co-manifesting. It's co-creating with that inspiration, with that divinity that's within, or creative spark, whatever you want to call it. Um, and it can't be born without us. In my opinion, like, it can't be born without us. So it, even if it does hop over to somebody else, it will have that very unique flavor that only you can do. Yeah.
Right, right. I'd love to hear. I mean, do you have any personal stories that you want to share of? I mean, I know this is really close to your heart in terms of, uh, uh, well, yeah, I'd love to hear you tell your story if you're comfortable with that,
Yes, and
of
if we
of
have
how,
time,
yeah,
maybe you can share something from you too. Yes.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I would say that, like I said, I feel like there's always been a form of what we've been talking about that's come through. But very specifically, right around the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, things started to profoundly shift in my artwork, in the words that were coming through, because very often when I'm in that flow that we talk about, then words want to come through. And, for a while, it would just be one or two words, like for years. And then starting around 2020, phrases came through, then paragraphs, then pages,
Mhm.
depending, not always. Um, but the very first time I realized, okay, something is going on here, was that I have an image that felt like it was birthed through me and of me, because it felt like it was wiser than me, but not me, but me. And
Mm.
the words came right after, which was, hidden within, I have always been, find me. And I was like, whoa. Like, I literally had to pull back and just like breathe for a second. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, there is some potent energy here.
Mm.
And I want to say right off the bat, it has never ever felt negative, weird, not for me. Do you know? I mean, like,
Yeah.
there has always been this love first type of situation. It's always
Mm.
been wisdom, it's been love, and it's been guidance. And that's really, I mean, that just has what I have allowed slowly to come through the pages, so much so that it's like almost my whole style has changed, to where it's just like colors that want to come through, and words, and maybe more mark making. And um it's just it's interesting, as this was all happening and I was allowing it to happen more and more, things started to shift more in my life. Like, some things wanted to be like sort of moved out of my life, and some things wanted to come in. So I was doing in all of the inviting in that I could. Um, and then at one point, I decided that after doing this for a while, I realized that I was able to have conversations with what I call, like, my team. So that would be my higher
Mm.
self, different, possibly, um, I don't know if ancestors are involved,
Mhm.
but just, I'll leave it at that. My team of the unseen is basically, light beings, basically. And I I said, let's go play down in the studio. Let's play, let's experiment. So I intentionally gave free rein to them and to my team and basically said, let's create a painting, create yourself, And they paint I have to this day a huge painting of look at me, I can't even form the words of, I guess, a light family, the folks behind the scenes that have my back, divinity, my higher self, whatever you choose to call it. It's
Mm.
a very personal thing. Like, so I don't expect people to completely get it. But what I am trying to say is there was that co-creation moment where it was just like color, like, okay. And it's like it painted itself through me. And it's this beautiful painting that is highly charged. It feels so good to be around. And ever
Mm.
since then, like I said, I've been creating differently. And it's just a trip. It's a trip. Not to say I still don't do
Wow.
process art, because I do. But even then, sometimes I can get like some words and stuff that come in.
Yeah. Wow. That's powerful.
Yeah, it's and I think I have felt hesitant to share it because of all the negative, connotation that can come with when somebody says, I channel or whatever. Yeah, this is just my experience, right? And there has been nothing negative about it in any way. In fact, it's helped me immensely. Yeah.
Right, right. And again, everyone everyone has different language and different ways of receiving. And who's to say whose is right? I mean, only you can know for yourself what feels right
Right.
and how you want to put language to it, if you want to put language to it. Or is it simply the magic of the mystery? Are you okay, Steph?
That's really interesting. I'm like using my voice to talk about this. And then it's like, yes, so I am better. Yeah.
So for our community that gets the video, hey everyone,
Sorry about that.
we're going to cut out this part for the edited version, podcast version, but you all get to see all the shit that goes down when we're actually recording.
Yeah, yeah, you're paying for this.
It's pay to watch Steph choke.
Yeah, I mean,
No, what's showing up? I mean, is it yeah.
well, you can see, I don't know, my cheeks are bright red. I am like clearing stuff out. This happens,
Mm,
especially like my whole body will just get flushed when I'm like talking about this stuff. And it's just
mm.
really interesting. So, yeah.
How are you feeling?
I feel okay. I just don't want to cough. Okay.
Take your time. I'll cut all this out. I'm really curious though to ask if there was something that like a moment that like caught your breath.
Hmm. Hmm.
Or if you just like sometimes I just choke on my own saliva. So
No,
just
that
very
definitely
randomly.
happens. This definitely, I think it was, I was, I think it's because I was trying to resist what wanted to come through me, like what I wanted to talk about, because I'm scared. Like I have this fear that people will think I'm weird or something because because that I'm doing this, but it's just me expressing, like it's my higher versions expressing through me is what I believe. So,
I want to get some of this on the pod also. So
okay.
let's find a
Okay.
moment to
I got a little, but
yeah,
mm,
okay.
okay.
I'll wait till you're done and then yeah, let's go back in and maybe um can
Okay.
speak to that a minute for a minute.
Okay.
So we were talking about, yeah, how nobody can define it for us. And maybe it doesn't need words, it's just the mystery. And I think I'd love to hear if you want to share what that
Yeah.
sometimes brings up for you. And this is probably from here on out is where I will go back into it.
So yeah, I mean, it is hard to define because it is very, very specific to the person creating. And, I just want to drop in there that not everyone may have these specific experiences. In fact, they probably won't because they're individual hooking up with that flow that we're talking about. It is for me, it
Right.
is me expressing through me. It's like the higher version of me, the different versions of myself, that wisdom that comes through. Um, but that doesn't mean it's going to look the same for you if you're listening now and thinking, oh, I just want to create, like, and
I don't know about all this
I don't
other
know about
stuff.
all this. And rest assured, like it will, like I feel like I've done my share of inviting too, right? And allowing. And it meets you, at least for me, it's met me exactly where I was. And there wasn't any sort of like coercion or like it just when I was ready and I knew what was going on, it like it became more of a practice and then it became more fluent. I became more fluent in it.
Right. Well, I would love to share my experience, just to kind of circle back to what you said of everybody's is going to be different, and it doesn't have to be anything where you feel you're getting some divine guidance or some oneness experience. I mean, I don't have a specific story, but what I want to say is that when I am creating, when I'm painting specifically, because I'm mostly a visual artist and painter, um, I was really stopping to think about what is that experience when I am at the canvas and I'm feeling in that flow and I'm sensing what is wanting to happen next. What is that experience? And it made me think of, and I mentioned this to you earlier, Steph, but it made me think of the clair senses,
Mm,
um, which are different forms of intuition, that different ways of knowing, different ways of receiving. So people talk about clairvoyance, which is clear seeing. Uh, Clairsentience is clear feeling. Claircognizance is clear knowing. Clairaudience is clear hearing. And there's other forms. Those are the most common. But what I realized is that when I am painting, I'm receiving information in different ways. Sometimes, and it'll change even within my own experience. So sometimes I'll be painting and I'll just have a knowing, kind of an intuitive body sense of something, of a way I want to move, or a way that, just that the body's wanting to express. Oftentimes I'll be painting and I will have a visual sense of a color that I feel like it's needing. And I'm saying needing with quotation marks, but it's like listening, dialoguing with whatever it is I'm working on. Um, it's not a sense of fixing it, but there is this sense of, as a visual artist, knowing that it's almost like my mind is saying, not this.
Mm,
Like I'm looking at what I'm seeing and I'm responding moment to moment on what is arriving. And I know it's not done yet because it's not this. It's this with this other thing. Like I know what I need next because of what I see in front of me. And so that this is very hard to put into words.
I know.
But so sometimes it's a color or a visual or a shape, you know. And so it's that seeing, but sometimes I'll get a word. Sometimes I'll get a word, and sometimes the word is whatever the next color is,
Mm,
or the next. So there can be hearing involved, there can be sensing, there can be thought. It's this interesting, but when you're in the flow of it, it's like it doesn't matter how it arrives. It's just that willingness that you talked about, Steph. We're not doing anything against our will here. We're not being coerced. We're not being, but it's when we're willing, it arrives in different ways for me.
mhm.
And again, it can be different for everyone. And this is where I just get so excited about how different people receive them because, again, writers, musicians, painters, or just in our daily lives, how we receive guidance. So many people talk about they get messages from God, you know, like it's like, yeah, how does that feel for you? How does that feel in your body? How is that in your consciousness when you get those really those clear moments of knowing? And so when I'm creating, yeah, I'm listening to what it needs, what it's wanting, what I'm perceiving that it's needing. Um, but I also, as I was really thinking about it, I was also, that's more of an additive process, right? What is it wanting me to add right now? I also love the subtractive process though. And I was thinking of you know, the great artist Michelangelo, who painted but mostly sculpted. And
Mm,
he was known to say, like when talking about the famous David sculpture, um, he was known to say that the sculpture is already complete within the marble block before I start my work. It is already there. I just have to chisel away the superfluous material.
mm.
So it's kind of like David is already in the marble. You just got to free him from it. Cut away everything that's not it.
Absolutely. Ugh.
I love it. I don't know that I have any answers with any of this. I'm just, it's really that curiosity and question of how do you receive it? And we're talking to you, listener, because everybody's different. And how do you receive guidance? How do you receive creative inspiration? And what does it feel like for you?
You know, I love that story. I love how you were talking about, just being so very close to and in the process that it's just the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And that's what we talk about when we're talking about process art too, what wants to show up. It's very much just the
Yes.
language of the soul. If you believe in soul or, whatever, fill in the blank. But I, I'm I'm reminded of earlier paintings that I did. Many of them had things to do with my neck and almost like vocal cords or just always around the neck area. And
Hmm.
I didn't know it consciously, but at the time I had Hashimoto's, which is thyroid disease. I still do, but it's under control now. And I feel like that was this higher version or clearer version of myself saying, get your thyroid checked, or, like there's something going on
Yeah.
here, and so it can even be as simple as that.
Right, right. The guidance and wisdom of the body speaking through, coming through. And yeah, so many people get that awareness of that something isn't right, something needs to be checked out. And I love that. I mean, yeah, how the paintings can show, or writings, whatever, can show us what is needing attention.
Mm, yeah.
That's beautiful. I mean, we talk so much about that art is healing, and but yeah, I really think the creative process helps us to hone our awareness of the world around us, but also the awareness
Mm,
within our own being. And my teachers often said that the soul is the soul is holotropic. Holotropic, is that the word? It's always seeking wholeness. And again, whether or not you believe in soul, but we as our beings are always seeking wholeness
mm,
in whatever that means. And so, yeah, finding that integration, but also if something's out of balance, we can know that for ourselves. And the creative process helps to clarify and clear the channel, if you will, for whatever wisdom is needing to come through.
absolutely. And honestly, I think my 20 plus years of process painting helped clear things out so that I could hear the voice in a clearer, more definitive way, for
Mm.
sure. Because if you look at my
Oh
paintings
yeah.
from the beginning all the way till what's happening now, whoa, so
Yeah. I can vouch for that as well. And it's been a similar experience for me. And again, not to scare anyone off, process art can also be scribbles on paper
yep.
and unleashing emotions. But what we're talking about is that deeper thread that shows up over years, even of following the thread and seeing what the process over time uh, does for us. Not
Mm.
for us, but
With
yeah,
us.
for us, with us, through us. I mean, it's growth, it's evolution, and it's allowing us to our fullness to bloom, and and to come into greater wholeness. I mean,
Yep.
it's just amazing. It's amazing what creativity is and what it allows us to become.
Creating into wholeness. Oh my goodness. Yeah,
Creating into wholeness. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like we could talk forever on this because we have so many specific examples and stuff, but I I hope that we hear from anyone listening who's, would like to continue the conversation, either through our website, um, or however, whatever channel you choose, channel, to say hello and let us know how you're doing. But I wonder if we can switch over now to maybe a practice, some writing, um, and see how that goes.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was so just like in in that I've completely forgot about our usual format.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah, yeah, go
no,
on.
I was going to say I could start with a writing prompt, but
Yeah, let's hear it.
okay, I could start with a writing prompt, which I actually have two, as I do. The first one is, how would I define the creative spark or flow? So for yourself, how would you define
Mm,
that? And oh my gosh, I'd love to hear that. And then secondly, how do I engage with creative flow in my life? So at the page, in a book, or outside in your life, but that's just another, how do I engage with creative flow in my life?
beautiful.
Yeah,
I love that.
absolutely. Creative flow. Sold now.
Yes.
Check out our
Yes.
website.
Yes, yes. Check out the book. We'll put the link in. Thank you, Steph. Yeah, great
Absolutely.
questions. Yeah, for the creative expression activity, what I wanted to offer is, you might have heard the practice of automatic writing, or people talk about writing with their non-dominant hand to get guidance, inspiration, that sort of thing. What I want to offer today as a practice is to create with your non-dominant hand. This can be painting, this can be writing, whatever you wish. But to also explore and experiment with alternating between hands, if you're able to. I've done this with paintings before. I've also done it with writing where it's almost like I'm having a conversation with something and each hand will respond. But you can also do it with painting and just to play with shifting, yeah, shifting hands and seeing if there's any sort of wisdom that arises from that.
Mm.
And maybe it's very simple. Maybe it's just, oh, well, this feels good and complete in my body to move this way. But yeah, you can also tune in deeply and just see if there's any wisdom or different voices that come from that experience.
I love that. And just with my very small amount of writing with or creating with my non-dominant hand, I it's so interesting because it's like a completely different being. It's quieter, it's calmer. Like, I don't know. Yes. And if you all do that,
Mm.
please, we would love to hear how your experience was with that too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's also physiology with that, they say that different parts of the brain are controlling different sides of the body and the practices of walking or drumming or anything where we're alternating sides of the body can really help bring us into a flow state and bring that integration. So, yeah, try it with art making. See what
Yeah.
happens.
Mm, man, what a rich conversation today.
Oh man, Steph, I feel like we might have to continue this one in
Yeah,
another
especially if we hear
down the
from other
road.
people, like, so we can
Yes,
include what people have commented and yeah.
absolutely. So I know we'll be bringing this conversation into our online community, the Soul Nectar community, and which is open for all to join if this is calling to you. But either way, even on our socials, I mean, we really just would love to hear like, what did this conversation spark for you? And what are your questions? What are your experiences? We really would love to hear them.
Absolutely. Well, do you feel complete, Jenny?
As complete as I'll be
Right, that's a loaded
in this
question.
moment.
Right. Well, until next
Yes,
time
I do.
then. Yeah.
Yes. Until next time. Yes.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.